yeah, it's natural. It's natural for human beings to be nostalgic about old things. Some of you might feel a certain affinity to when you visit Machu Picchu or something, some ancient temple complex site, maybe the Mayans, or you might visit the Egyptians, the Giza pyramids in the Valley of the Kings. But yeah, everyone at some point in their life, they really do revere old things, and they get nostalgic about it. I believe it was the other day a copy of Super Mario Brothers Nintendo Entertainment System, not opened, sold for about, I want to say, $566,000 or something. So all those people that ruined and abused their Super Mario Brothers and their old games from back in the day, they're kind of kicking themselves now that they're older. I was born in 1980, so I mean, obviously, since I was a child, I wasn't obsessively hoarding or collecting things. Now I'm very hesitant to open anything that I any kind of action figure, any kind of video game. I used to pawn stuff. I used to trade stuff. Now I don't do that anymore. I just collect everything. And it's not out of an obsessive compulsive disorder or any kind of psychological problem. It's just, hey, if that Rubik's Cube from 1980 from New Jersey, if it's worth something one day, I'm just not going to open it. I'm going to leave it as it is, pristine. And who knows what the auction will yield for that one day. I mean, maybe nothing, maybe something, don't know. But you just keep it anyway. So if you do have any rare items and someone's nostalgic about that item, whether it's, an old Nintendo game, Rubik's Cube, Nerf, Ghostbusters, Batman, Ninja Turtles, in any of that stuff, then you'll have it ready to sell on eBay if you want to part with it for a certain price. Especially if it's a whopping price, it'd probably be easier to part with that, because it's better to have a lot of money than to have some stuff just sitting on inventory. I think that's why this weekend everybody's doing garage sales. And we're going to have like 5 garage sales. It's going to be, this lady collected all this shit over the years, collected like 40 totes worth of shit, and she can't get rid of it. So she's going mad, and she keeps, she got on the local association board, I think, just to make sure that we had regular garage sales. Now, if these people are in financial straits or something like that, if they're in debt, if they're just trying to consolidate, I'm not really sure their particular situation. But we will probably join the neighborhood garage sale, not this weekend, but probably in next month or the month after that. There's going to be like 4 or 5 of them, so we have time, quote unquote. But yeah, I'm not going to part with any nostalgic items. I'm not going to depart with any items that are video games, or they're pop culture related, or their albums, or their CDs. I'm not going to part with any of that stuff. In fact, I'm going to try to collect more of that kind of thing and hold on to it. There's a closet filled with DVDs and like VHS. Now, they aren't worth anything because tape technology is old, but there are some rare VHSs, like for instance the Disney Diamond, the Black Diamond collection, which only was produced from I think about 1984 to 1994. So that's a very rare collection. It has a lot of old classics on VHS. even though VHS is not a viable technological um, medium to which people want to transmit their movies and things, especially in the age of the internet streaming and all this. But those classic Disney VHS have other items of value besides the movie itself. They have great artwork, and so there's other sorts of things about it that make it valuable, and it's rare. Um, Not everybody has many pieces of the collection. Some movies are worth more than others. Like some Beauty and the Beast is worth a lot more than some of the other movies. I guess Aladdin, all the big classic hits, um, and some of the classics like The Jungle Book and so forth. So Cinderella, The Sleeping Beauty. I think some of these are yeah. Um, now some people might call their price inflated, but I think as these items become more rare over time, they will naturally increase in value because people are nostalgic about these classic Disney films from their childhood, and so I want to say um, since people are into old things and nostalgic about old classic things, um, of course, vinyl and record stores started to have kind of a resurgence. Whether that resurgence will last, probably not. It was probably a nostalgic thing by older people. Even the president made the famous gaffe: "Put on your record player at night." You know, like it's 1950s again, but it's not the 1950s anymore, or the 1960s for that matter. It's the 2020s. Um, but that just shows you that, hey, you know what, vinyl it's kind of bulky, it's kind of scratchy. If your record player don't work right, then you have to buy a new one. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's very simple. It's a very simple technology, and it just requires electricity, and that's it. And you're off to the races. So I could see why it would have a resurgence because it's kind of like fire. It's an old technology that's useful. So when the power grid in Texas um, totally goes out, everybody's freezing their ass off and dying in the dark. Uh, well, you light some candles. You light a fire. You light the fireplace. It's yeah, it's an old technology. It's not a modern heating system, but it works. Is the point? Like light bulbs and um, like grills and propane and gasoline. It may not be the future of technology, but it works. Um, so I'm never one to rush and discount old technology, even though um, tapes are a pain in the ass because they have the tape and the film messes up, and that's the worst part of it. I used to be a projectionist for you may have heard of it, American Multi Cinema AMC theaters, and one of the worst things that would happen, besides a VHS getting chewed up or like a cassette tape getting jammed in the deck, all these old forms of technology, is that the film would jam up and break and sometimes um, catch on fire, uh, stink and burn, and it would just if the mechanical components did not run the film or the tape through right, if it malfunctioned, it would malfunction pretty big time. Um, I know there's efforts to I know there's efforts to have all this nostalgia about Astroworld. And I grew up in Houston, Texas in the '80s. I went to Astroworld was very part of my what was a huge part of my not only my childhood, but it was also like a huge part of my teenage years. And Travis Scott, the rapper from Houston, I don't know why he's famous. I don't think he's good at music or anything. But so he made a record called Astroworld, and trying to milk out that just trying to use a cheap gimmick to sell to people about the nostalgia of Astroworld. Um, and I think it's disingenuous and dishonest to use something like that, like the Astrodome or Astroworld. So today's the anniversary of the first day of the first Astros game in the Astrodome on, I want to say, was it April 9th, 1965, the first game in the Astrodome was played. And I said, yeah, I saw the footage. It looked pretty cool last night. But for people to invoke, I don't know, Travis Scott was born in 1992. Did he really remember Astroworld? I mean, I guess maybe, yeah. I mean, it could have been a part of his childhood if he went there by the time, it was 1992. So yeah, if his parents started taking him there when he was 1996, 1997, 1998, yeah, maybe he has some nice childhood memories. I don't know how many rides he could have rode by then, but by the time it was 2006, it closed. Um, so he could have been on the kiddie rides. I don't know if he could have started riding coasters yet. Maybe if he went there right before it closed and started, and if he had been to Astroworld from when he was like 5 to 2006, 1997 to 2006, maybe he actually got to ride on the adult rides. But how much does he really know about Astroworld to use Astroworld as a? And honestly, for his rap career was going to go down the toilet because he's not talented. He had to use something to prop up his career. So he used the nostalgia of Houston, Texas to prop up his rap career. It wasn't his overwhelming talent and amazing rap and musical skills which propelled him. He milked everybody's nostalgia, and that's a very clever marketing move. You get people nostalgic, you get people feeling about stuff from the past. You can really sink them in, and he got people, not me, because I grew up with Astroworld. I wasn't falling for that shit. Maybe the world fell for that shit, but I didn't, because I knew what it was. It was just a cash grab, another corporate soulless cash grab, like we're getting so numb and used um, to the point of ad nauseum. Now, last night, it was genuine, a Houston news channel showing the first Astros game in the Astrodome, the supposed eighth wonder of the world. But what nobody wants to talk about is how Astroworld went downhill, why it went downhill, and people don't want to talk about all the ugly particulars. Now, the mayor might get on the podium and say, "We're really planning in the city council to make a new Astroworld," and you're faced with a lot of problems, like who's going to pay for it, where is it going to be located. Now, if you put it in the old location, the old Astroworld went down because the area went down. So you would be faced with building another theme park in a probably not a racially diverse place, and of course the leaders of Houston aren't on board with that. So if you build it out of the outskirts of the city, then people will have to drive, and it'll be a pain in the ass for them to get there. I mean, probably a clever way to do this would be to create like Astroworld 2, and find the space, find a nice area, and then build an infrastructure of high-speed trains around Houston. That would be the most intelligent. It would be expensive, but it would be the most logical thing to do. So if you built high-speed rail so that everybody in Houston could get to the park, then it would be like more of a united, but it would be ridiculously expensive to do that. Plus, the oil and gas industry doesn't want speed trains because they know that people will drive less and spend less on gasoline. And, OPEC and fossil fuel and energy companies don't want that. Um, if there is a new type of energy created in quantum mechanics or quantum physics, or there's a green energy push to make more high-speed trains around metro cities and connecting, interlinking cities in Texas, the oil and gas industries will want a part of that. They don't want to. They're going to want their cut. They're not just going to transition to green energy and just lose out money on oil and natural gas. That's just not how they operate. So that's a lot of complex engineering and business, and so forth. But yeah, the Astrodome tribute yesterday was very heartfelt, and it wasn't just a gimmick just to make money. It was a genuine thing. I think all this nostalgia about the Astrodome and about Astroworld. I mean, I feel you, man. But if you saw Astroworld in its final days, this scary place where you don't want to take your family, where thugs run amok, where it's just so ghetto that you don't want to ever go there. That's the ending of Astroworld. That's how it really was. At first, it was like Disney World. It was family friendly. It was a pleasant place to be. And then eventually, through just the park getting run down over time and not being well maintained, and plus a changing demographic, and a ghettoification, um, a definite change in clientele, Astroworld went downhill. And then it failed because ultimately it wasn't built to last. It wasn't like Universal Studios or Disney World or Disneyland that's just going to stay around and everybody goes, oh, let's go to Disneyland, let's go to Disney World. Now, maybe Houston wish it had a place like that where everybody wanted to go and they felt safe there and they felt happy there. But that's just not how the times are now. So it's I totally understand that Travis Scott had to make money and his rap career was going to go down the shit because, if you're not a talented rapper like Jay-Z or um, Outkast or something like that, or Wu-Tang Clan, your shit's going to go down. I mean, it just naturally is. If you're not a talented rapper like Snoop Dogg or Tupac Shakur or something, your career's going to go. So he needed a gimmick. And the best gimmick he could think of was, hey, let's make an album dedicated to Astroworld, my childhood memories of being in Astroworld, and it was a hit because people were nostalgic about Astroworld because it was pretty fun at the beginning, and it was a really fun place to go, and people had a lot of great times there. That's without a doubt. But I like the respectful tributes to the Astrodome and to Astroworld, and I really don't like people that use it as a platform. And it's not like they pay Six Flags Astroworld. It's not like they pay the company and say, "Oh yeah, I made all this millions using your name, Astroworld." Now he can use Astroworld. You know why? I think legally he can do it because it's something that's failed. It's something that's gone. So if I called my album Blockbuster after Blockbuster Video, or I called it Hollywood Video or something, or Suncoast Video, or some chain that's dead, like what are they going to do? Are they going to sue me? What if I came out with an album called Bennigan's? And it was a song all about drinking beer, going to Bennigan's, and how fun that was. It would be really nostalgic. People were like, "Oh, Bennigan's." Steak and Ale. These places used to be like the old Cheers. I mean, people have happy memories from those places. So me coming out with the album like Astroworld, it would be like me coming out with the album like called Blockbuster Video or something. Blockbuster Video doesn't exist, so they can't sue me, and I could make shitloads of money off of making an album about Blockbuster. But is it going to be very genuine? No, it's not going to be genuine at all. It's just going to be a nostalgic fucking cash grab. It's going to be a soulless thing. And now I'm not saying would I ever sell my soul just to make a whole shitload of money. Well, I think a lot of people would. So that goes without saying. That's pretty self-evident. If you could figure out a way to make money and you wouldn't get in trouble, people would do it in a heartbeat. That's just the natural fact. Whether it's you're finding your old Super Mario Brothers 38-year-old copy in a drawer somewhere, 36-year-old copy, or you're rapping to Astroworld or making a rock album about Blockbuster Video, you're going to do whatever it takes to make as much money as you can. And if it's milking out old dead companies' nostalgia and old dead stadiums and theme parks nostalgia just to make a quick buck and a quick, fast, hefty buck, you bet your ass people are going to fucking do it. Because these are not very easy financial times. I mean, they're easy for like the mega billionaires like Jeff Bezos and these characters, but they're not for poor and working class people. They're not fucking easy times at all. It's like the worst times, some of the worst times ever. So, yeah, I could see why. I mean, they have entire YouTube channels dedicated to nostalgic video games, nostalgic movies. It's all just nostalgia. It started in the 90s. They started to come out with nostalgic stuff about the 60s and the 70s. They started to do like Brady Bunch and Scooby Doo. And then, of course, YouTube came around. There was Napoleon Dynamite, which was basically a movie about nostalgia, about the good old days. And basically, I would say that Napoleon Dynamite was such a smash hit because it really tapped into everybody's nostalgic vibe and like the kind of reconnection with their childhoods in a very deep way. But or it's sort of like a funeral for people's childhoods, because it's like people remember the innocence of their youth, and then when they have to deal with the nitty gritty, ugly adult world, then it's kind of overwhelming in some cases. And if you're not acclimated and well adjusted to it. So, and then after that, it was YouTube, and then nostalgia was off to the races. People could, make videos about stuff from the 80s and the 90s with impunity. And some of them, like Angry Video Game Nerd and Nostalgia Critic, were successful. Some guys are just guys in their basement, sad looking, like bitter that their YouTube career didn't pan out. They're still just sitting in their trailer, making videos and stuff. They just get older and older and older and like more irrelevant, and they just look sadder and sadder and sadder that they never took off. And some of these guys weren't bad. They weren't like bad film reviewers or anything. They just weren't engaging or flashy enough for their channels to take off. They just didn't have the charisma. They just didn't have the personality. They just were just too bland for society to handle. And that's what happens. So, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, if they have a tiny following, they might, and they don't make tons of money, they might be just happy with their whatever their posterity. But yeah, so nostalgia and old things are bigger bucks because people feel a connection with that stuff. And yeah, you could probably sell musical albums and music videos reminiscing. I mean, wasn't Taylor Swift's one of her albums was called 1989? I mean, people get really, really foggy-eyed and rose-colored glasses about the past in a major way. I think Travis Scott rapping on Astroworld was the only time that I took it personally offensive. Um, because it was just such a blatant cash grab and such a I guess I took it personally because I was born in Houston. I grew up with Astroworld as a kid, and I sang choir there, and I went on field trips with my friends there for years and years and years. So it kind of bothers me that somebody would make a hip hop record from Houston, Texas that would just be a cash grab for using the name Astroworld when it was a dead company. But hey, if I could make tons of money making a record called Sears or Bennigan's or Blockbuster Hollywood Video or something, then fuck it. Um, People might be offended that I use their their nostalgic memories of the old has been thing. But if I'm laughing all the way to the bank, I can't fault Travis Scott or any of these characters for trying to make money off of people's love of older things. That's in human nature. So you can't be angry at that. Because being angry at human nature would be like being angry at yourself. It would just be ridiculous. Um, so happy anniversary, Astrodome. And yeah, I have great memories about the Astrodome and um, Astroworld. In particular, particular, particularly the Astroworld Waterworld and the Astrodome itself. Going to see concerts, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and all that. So yeah, I mean, it was really amazing childhood memories and teenage memories from those places before they shut down. And so yeah, that'll be forever Houston. Um, the Astrodome was definitely cool. It was very unique. It looked very space age at the time when it was young. And Astroworld was a very fun, family friendly Disney World type place for a long time before it went downhill. But sooner or later, you just have to that let those memories not die, but uh, eventually you're just gonna have to let it go. And maybe society isn't necessarily ready to let all that stuff go yet. But I think here coming up in the next decade or so, it'll start to. I mean, you'll still hear stories about somebody finding a rare Legend of Zelda and selling it at auction. I even foresee a time, and this is probably when I'm a really old man. I foresee a time where somebody has a rare copy of Nintendo 64 007 GoldenEye, the James Bond GoldenEye, the really famous Nintendo 64 game. I imagine a time where somebody has like an unopened, unsealed copy, and somebody pays like $1 million for it. And I'm not even fucking making it up. I mean, there might be a time in the future where just having a Nintendo 64 will net you a certain amount of dollars. So yeah, hold on to what you got because you never know what you'll find and what would be what you'll unearth during spring cleaning or something. Um, so, anyways, God bless and best of success. I love Houston, Texas, and of course the Astrodome and the Astroworld history of Houston, Texas. Um, I suppose I was. I mean, I can be irritated if talentless hacks use the name Astroworld or some old company just to make profit for themselves, milking that nostalgic human nature that we all have somewhere deep down. Um, as much as we look forward to today and tomorrow, there's also a part of us that kind of looks back as well as a connection with the past. And so I understand why that industry is blooming, these are not exactly the best of times. So a lot of people are looking back to find joys in the past or classic music, um, like the guy drinking juice and listening to Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Rumors. Yeah, I mean, you want to look back to when music and times were real good, and opportunities were good, and a time when the rich were really rich, but the middle class was thriving, and working class people were also succeeding. Um, so yeah, a lot of people want to look back to those really good times, and really excellent times for for logical and good reasons. Especially now when people seem to be in a kind of a hopeless despair. Not everyone, but there are certain swaths of society that have given up and have become even suicidal, and kind of just had enough of it all. And um, so people need to have a hope that they're going to have a future in some capacity. Otherwise, what would be the point in the continuation um, of their lives besides just futile necessity? But in any case, um, best of success and God bless. And yeah, I love Houston, Texas. It's where I was born. That's why I never left. It would have been cool to kick it out in the country where it's more beautiful. And I almost consider not coming back here, but I understand um, the appeal of the Bayou City. It's not the traffic. It's not the overwhelming amount of people. It's not people's bullshit, which is the attraction. It's more, I suppose, uh, the aesthetic perhaps is more of the appeal of it. Um, so the memories of when this place was good before humanity ruined it. The memories of when the environment was nice, and when the people were nice. It's those memories that keep people going. It's not what this place has become. It is what it used to be, which inspires people a lot of times. I guess that can also be said for America itself. It inspires people the potential of what it used to be and what it still could be. Maybe if people took greater care of it and nature and the environment and themselves and each other, what promise the future could hold in that case. So, anyways, happy spring cleaning. Gonna get to it, and I'm gonna get on that garage sale. I'm not gonna give away any old video games, any old board games, any old um, things of that nature. I'm just going to try to sell things that are useful, like a TV or an exercise machine, but they're not like super expensive and current. So somebody might say, hey, I need an exercise machine. So they come to the garage sale and they go, oh, look at that. And it's for cheap, so it's not going to be super expensive. And then mark it up to an acceptable, profitable price. And see where it goes. I'm not going to put any rare items on the auction block, but just if there's any novelty items that I just don't want, maybe. But for the most part, it's just going to be things that are kind of taking up space and old, but somebody might actually want it for cheap. So, yeah. Well, that's it. Happy birthday opening game for the Astros, the Astrodome, and from Houston, Texas. Peace.